After Operation Sindoor, India officially stopped diplomatic relationships with Pakistan, but there is a track two happening. What is happening in the track two, especially in the light of Pakistani defense minister threatening war with India if water is not restored? On the other hand, Pakistan went to China and in their joint statement, they again talked about equitable distribution of water. Also, what is happening in Bangladesh and China with respect to water? Is the entire region going into a water war situation? The Middle East may have oil wars. India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, China, water is the key element. That is one part of it. The other part is a very unusual statement by the ambassador to India from United States, जो बार बार आके अलग अलग सीएम से मिल रहे हैं, अलग अलग मिनिस्टर से मिल रहे हैं. आई डोंट रिकॉल वेदर ambassador has been this active, this super active, and then he tweets referring to Tamil Nadu as a relationship with two nations, not a state, a nation with which US is having a relationship. Is he trying to fish in troubled waters? And what is happening with US, Iran? Iran is inviting prime minister to the state funeral. So, a lot of complexities in the world in which India has become a central figure. To discuss all this, analyze all these problems, and many more, we have with us today again Mr. Kanwal Sibal. He needs no introduction, so I will straight away jump into the thing, sir. Sir, what is this track to diplomacy and why is this a new thing? Is it effective? What is the purpose behind it? Because officially we are doing nothing after Operation Sindoor.
Well, I think there are some people on our side, some ex-military officials, ex-diplomats, including those who have served in Pakistan, who advocate some kind of resumption of contacts with Pakistan at the track two level in order to gauge the views and sentiments and thinking on the Pakistani side, see what the red lines are, and what are the uh, what are the perspectives that on the Pakistani side they may have with regard to relations with India, and of course share with them what India's perspectives are. There have always been a lot of people with this kind of a thinking and approach towards Pakistan, dating back to years and years and years. You remember this candlelight brigade, which was very active at one time on the border, even, and the efforts that have been made by some circles in India uh, to uh, have this track to dialogue. I myself was involved in the Nimrana dialogue for some years. I had agreed to join that because on our side, this was financed exclusively by the Ministry of External Affairs. Uh, and of course, at the end of the meetings, we were making a summary of our discussions and giving it to the Ministry of External Affairs. Now, after 4 or 5 meetings, I found that while in some respects here and there, you got some useful information with regard to the state of the Pakistani economy, and especially what was happening in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa region, because one of the uh, journalists on the Pakistani side, whose reports I've been reading, was very, very informed. So they gave you a pretty good idea about Taliban and this and that and stuff like that. But when it comes to real core issues, which relate to bilateral relations between India and Pakistan, there was no progress at all. Not only no progress, there was no meeting of minds. On the Pakistani side, there was an uh, I think he was chief of army staff, very influential man, and another lieutenant general, uh, and they sort of totally denied that Pakistan had anything to do with terrorism. The same language they speak now, that Pakistan itself is a victim of terrorism. Look at how many people in Pakistan have been killed because of terrorism, and it's all, you know, a wrong belief on India's part that the Pakistani establishment involved in terrorism. And then, of course, when it came to Kashmir, uh, naturally their viewpoint was that Kashmir has to be on the agenda and some dialogue has to take place, etc., etc. So after 4 or 5 meetings, I declined to go because I found that it was pretty useless in terms of concrete results. But that kind of feeling and thinking in India continues. Now, the point I'm making is that if it's important to have a dialogue with Pakistan to assess its thinking with regard to the future relations with India, shouldn't on the Pakistani side there'll be actually more pressure and more desire to understand what India's thinking is because India has the upper hand. And especially after Operation Sindoor, it's quite clear India has broken certain taboos with regard to military action. Should there be a big terrorist attack against India, this and that, they should be more worried. They should reach out. They should give you some indication of rethinking on their part about relations with India. And then, yes, we can respond. But I find it the opposite. None of these track two chaps, some of them I know, they have never said what Pakistan is doing in order to engage India. What is it that, what is it new that should actually encourage us to uh, to understand what Pakistan thinking is and to read the signals right? But there's nothing. We are
So
acting
the
as if we are the vulnerable party. We are the weaker party. We have uncertainties ahead. We need to protect ourselves. We can land ourselves into serious trouble if there's another terrorist attack. And therefore, we should try and engage Pakistan to somehow dissuade them. Please don't do Operation Sindoor again because next time it will be a much bigger fight and then etc. etc. So I don't understand the logic of this.
Sir, you have said you don't understand the logic of it. But then do you think we are falling in again the trap of Aman ki Asha, that the people of Pakistan aren't bad, it's only certain elements in the establishment, and that we must have peace talks, only that will be the solution. We have gone around that many times in a loop, as you're saying, the Candle March gang, Mombatti gang, some may call it. But then it is again Aman ki Asha even after Operation Sindoor. And do you think that is going to harm India in the immediate terms? Because at this moment, POK is burning. Pakistan is facing problems in Balochistan. There is a war with Afghanistan, but POK is very, very live. And there are protests and there are marches against Pakistan. Pakistan is killing people there, kidnapping people. All that has come out. So, in that context, is a two-part question. A, do you think India has some role in POK? Is India exerting pressure, helping in POK, though India is not speaking about it? And second part, do you think India is missing out an opportunity of speaking more on POK, saying there is a humanitarian crisis building there because we have always maintained it's part of our land illegally in their occupation? And in midst of this, if we are having a so-called track to diplomacy, what is the consequence or what is the message from that to the world?
First of all, it's mixed messaging because the Pakistanis will interpret the moves on our part to restore some kind of track to diplomacy or track 1.5 diplomacy as India reading the situation now differently after Pakistan has regained a great deal, from their point of view, international prestige following their mediatory role, especially a relationship with the United States, with Trump lauding and lionizing Field Marshal Munir and other world leaders also praising Pakistan for its mediatory role. So Pakistan feels that their image has changed, that Indian policy to brand them as the epicenter of terrorism and focus continuously on their affiliations with terrorism and their rogue behavior in this regard has not succeeded. In fact, now has failed because of the prestige Pakistan has gained. Number two, Pakistan, and we must recognize that it has been given an important regional security role. It began with the defense agreement with Saudi Arabia, and now there's loose talk about Egypt, Turkey, Pakistan, and the Gulf states getting together because the US security umbrella has not proved effective, and Pakistan is a nuclear weapon country. Whether some kind of a Gulf security arrangement, which will involve Turkey and Egypt, can substitute in some ways or supplement uh, the security umbrella that the Americans have provided, given the much closer ties now between the United States and Pakistan. Now, in this background, they will they will actually feel that they are speaking to India, or they will be conversing with India from a position of strength. Now, as a result of what they think are their diplomatic gains, as you know, they have stepped up the propaganda on the Indus Waters Treaty. They want to raise it in the UN Security Council. They are having some other international gatherings, I find, where they are talking about water sharing, etc., etc. Um, and of course, they are trying to revive the Kashmir issue. So it is absolutely the wrong time for us to send them comforting signals that we want to talk to you. Why, if they want to talk to us, let them send us solid, credible messages. But who will send those messages? Will General Munir, Field Marshal Munir, send a message saying that that Pakistan is the that Pakistan and Hindus and Muslims and Hindus, their ambitions are different, their culture is different, their everything is different,
Mm.
etc., etc. Very hard line. He's very anti-Hindu and anti. So in India, so will he then be the sponsor of genuine opening up towards India? Will Shehbaz Sharif be that? Who are the policy makers in Pakistan whom we can count on to be able to shape public opinion or respond to what is being said about, the civil society and people in Pakistan who want good
Mm.
relations with India? Will these people shape the discourse
Mm.
within Pakistan? Of course not. So I'm not able to understand. I don't want to be critical, but I'm also a bit puzzled as to uh, at some of the line that RSS taking with regard to uh, relationship with the people of Pakistan. Now, if the people of Pakistan look, if the people are going to be effective in any polity, if the people are going to be effective, it has to be a democratic polity. Otherwise, what does it mean, people? In authoritarian societies, people have no particular role in shaping policy. Now, is Pakistan today more of a democracy or less of a democracy? With the kind of changes that have occurred, the constitutional coup, where the military now effectively has
Mm.
that power and is being recognized as the real leaders of Pakistan, even by President Trump and
Mm.
others who do not miss a chance to cozy up to Field Marshal Munir as a great peacemaker of the world. So
Sir,
uh,
but
people have not been able to shape the policy of Pakistan uh, in terms of domestic politics to give primacy to the interests of the people, and much less relationship with India. If the people were that effective, if those lobbies were that effective, then the relationship would have been different. We have tested this time and again. So why do we believe that you know having some Pakistani musicians and singers or some members of the civil society come here and speak to us, etc., etc., is going to change things at the policy making level? They are not going
sir,
to.
Sir, at one point, US is definitely trying to raise the stature of Pakistan in the world. But on the other hand, the Balochistan problem is not going away from Pakistan. Afghanistan, there is an active war going on. Recently, Afghanistan even carried out airstrikes, drones, whatever technology it had. And the third point is the POK has suddenly started burning, and it's burning for quite a few days now. So, what do you see is that effect on the Pakistani polity and India's role in POK? And should we be doing something more, something different? What should be India's stand there? And is there, in your view, some active involvement in India in all the trouble Pakistan is facing in POK?
Two, three things. One is that our discourse on POK has been very strong, even in Parliament. You heard the statements by Defense Minister Rajnath Singh on this, very categorical, that POK is going to become part of India. So it's not as if we have been mealy mouthed or being careful about what we say about developments in POK and the future of POK. Now, whether that has got translated, whether it will get translated into some kind of a role in POK to exacerbate the situation that the Pakistani government is facing there. I can't say. I can't say. I think this is my view from outside that this issue uh, has been there in POK for a long time. The manner in which Pakistan has governed POK, and the issue here now apparently is a certain number of seats which are given to allocated to non-Kashmiris in POK, and that gives the opportunity to the Pakistan government to make sure that whichever government comes to power is under their control, because they control those election to those seats which are allocated to non-Kashmiris. But this is one of the issues. I think we should step up international propaganda about two, three things. One is that shift the focus away from problem and troubles in our part of Kashmir, which for years have fed Western and Pakistani propaganda, and focus on what's happening in POK, the killings of innocents, the people, the trouble situation there, and some of the statements that Khwaja himself has made, that the Mirpuris and others, they are not really Kashmiris and stuff like that. And there's a reaction in Britain uh, on this. Now we should play this up. We should be much more active in terms of our signaling on YouTube, on various social media, this and that. Organize a campaign to support the kind of challenge to the Pakistan government that the Kashmir POKs, people in Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir, are demonstrating. That is one part. The other, you talked about Balochistan and all that. Now it's interesting that Pakistan and China wanted the BLA to be declared a terrorist organization by the UN Security Council, but surprisingly, the US and some others, they opposed it, which surprises me, because if you recall, under the Biden administration, they had declared the BLA as a terrorist organization bilaterally. But it came to the UN Security Council, somehow things didn't pan out the way Pakistan and China wanted. And this is going to be a recurrent problem for Pakistan. It's not going to go away. Now they've arrested Marang Baloch, that lady. Uh,
Sentenced her also, sir. I think sentenced her also, not only arrested. They were.
Exactly, life imprisonment, I think. So I think this is an issue on which we should activate our own uh, machine to bring this to the increasingly to the attention of the international community, and also within Pakistan itself, within Balochistan itself. I don't know if you have made any statement on her arrest, official statement. I think we should make it. We should make it. That is. Then, of course, the whole problem between Afghanistan and Pakistan. I mean, if you look at it from an external, unbiased point of view, I mean, forget this wretched PhD role. They can't handle even Afghanistan, their own proteges. For years and years and years, they nurtured them and put them into power there. And the Haqqani group was actually, as Admiral, one of the former chiefs of Joint Staff of the United States, there is a veritable arm of the ISI. Look at the tremendous failure of Pakistan in now exchanging missile attacks and drone attacks and killing and killings going on between Pakistan and Afghanistan. But the international community is not taking much note of this, because they want to focus on what their interest is, which is Pakistan as an intermediary to sort out this problem in Iran. So I think on the whole, Pakistan is in a very difficult situation. Its economy is on a drip, an IMF drip. Coincidentally, here you not asked me that question, but I want to make a point, which is that the United States has been telling us that we should reduce our defense ties with Russia. In fact, Katsa and others were legislated with that in mind, and also they have been in various ways telling us that they want to supplant Russia as the biggest defense partner of India. Now, Here is a country like Pakistan which can't survive without IMF bailouts. It is not dependent on those on Saudi Arabia and this and that, what have you. Now, with the kind of uh, problem that they have on the economic side, yet they are placing more and more orders on advanced equipment on China. Even talking about this, their fifth generation aircraft and this and that and that. But have you heard a squeak at all from the White House, from Trump, from the Americans, saying that one of the conditions, if they're going to bail you out economically, is that you reduce your defense dependent on China? They don't do that. But they did it to us when it came to Russia. So are they comfortable with the fact that China actually beefs up Pakistan more and more? And if they beef up Pakistan, then a beefed up Pakistani military machine is a danger to whom? It's not a danger to the Gulf or to Iran or
Hmm.
to India. I think this is something which nobody wants to talk about. And this should be highlighted. Our media is so sold out that no one wants to bring out these serious contradictions in U.S. policy when it comes to Pakistan's relationship with China.
Sir, but also because we mentioned Balochistan, one is this contradiction where China and recently Pakistan launched 6 satellites. People presume it is Chinese technology, Chinese satellites or surveillance one. But in Balochistan, something is very interesting. Is it a proxy war going on between US and China for influence in Balochistan? Because initially, 2 months ago or so, one Chinese company left Balochistan, gave an official statement that there is a security issue there, so we cannot operate there. On the other hand, we see this sort of a loose alliance between Afghanistan and the Baloch freedom fighters. So, do you think it is also to some ways US increasing its influence in Balochistan? That is why, if I link it with UN Security Council not allowing BLA to be declared a terror organization, so is there a new game afoot there where US wants to have significant interests in Balochistan, which will only be at the cost of China?
Well, I think what you pointed out is right. It is after uh, Trump and people around him signed this deal of rare earths and minerals with Pakistan, and one American company has signed that deal. And in that, the interests of people around Trump are involved. And many people say that this accounts for the lionization of Asim Munir by Trump. You recall that scene in White House where he opens up a very beautiful box. I thought that he was going to present him some jewels or some sort of costly stuff like that, but they were those rare earths which were presented as like in a jewel box. Anyway, so uh, that is that could be, but then this is a very recent thing. Whereas the problem that China has been facing in Balochistan is long-standing because the Baluchis feel that they have not got any benefit earlier from the sui gas, and now from the exploitation of the mineral resources, all of which will go to the Punjab dominated polity of Pakistan. They'll get nothing. And there always been a insurgency, if you might want to call that, in Balochistan. You remember the manner in which General Musharraf actually used artillery to kill a very prominent Baloch leader. So that Balochi independence movement is long standing. But what you say about United States now uh, revising their thinking about the Balochistan liberation movement because they don't want to antagonize the Balochis too much. I think it is to my mind a very simplistic kind of a calculation that the Americans are making, thinking that the Balochis will be happy to be exploited by the Americans, but not by the Chinese. I mean, on what basis? On what
Mhm.
basis can they make this assumption?
Mhm.
And if tomorrow some Americans, like in the case of Chinese, some Americans are killed or targeted or kidnapped, I think that
Mhm.
will be the end of this little drama that United States is trying to stage.
So, in the
Balochistan.
context of reducing Chinese influence, because if China gets rarer, China captures it completely or significantly starts extracting resources from there, that would be a long-term threat to US. So the minute China is in a position there to extract, despite all the difficulties, suddenly US getting active in the region, it could be more as a counter to China than to
Ishkaran,
purely.
Ishkaran, the thing is that they're far. First of all, these are unexplored resources
Hmm,
in Balochistan,
hmm,
and people who are technically qualified would tell you that mining of rare earths is an extremely time-consuming and expensive process, which
hmm,
requires very advanced machinery because
hmm,
the ores are very widely dispersed. They are not in in quantities, mineable quantities in one place. So anyway, leave that aside. And then to be able then to do the mining, and then at the end of the day go into processing and this and that, it is a 10-year affair.
hmm,
If it all gets off the ground. That's
hmm,
one. The other is that there are a lot many more areas of the world which have great resources, these kind of mineral resources, whether it is Latin America,
hmm.
Chile, or whether it is uh, Africa, the Democratic Republic of Congo, even Australia has a lot of minerals. Afghanistan has a lot.
Hmm.
So it's not as if Pakistan is bursting with this and it's all there and anybody can go and start mining and then make huge profits. And it's not like that. You have to invest millions and you invest millions and millions and millions. For that, you need a stable Pakistan. You need a economically viable Pakistan. You need an stable Afghanistan, an economically viable Afghanistan. It's not easy, all this. So therefore, for the United States to think in the long term they're competing with China, the place to compete for this is not Pakistan. It's
Okay.
much wider geographical space, especially in Latin America, where we want also to grow.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Sir, from Pakistan, I want to come a little bit to the Bangladesh issue in the sense that India is still continuing till today of suspension of Indus Water Treaty, which is obviously going to be a test case. Do we stick to it? Do we rethink that? But China is building and is constantly building super dams, and this new super dam that has been in by a pipeline for a long time, located near the Great Bend of the Indian border in Arunachal Pradesh. So there's supposed to be a super hydro project. And then in Bangladesh, they have these talks on water. And Pakistan, when it went to this Prime Minister went to China, they had in their joint statement equitable distribution of water in the region. So what do you see, sir, is happening vis-a-vis India and China on the waterfront? And in Bangladesh, when their representative came to India, India sent it back saying he is on the barred list or banned list or something. So, what is the thing happening in Bangladesh with Indian interest, along with this water strategy, which seems to be becoming more important or at least more discussed in the entire region?
Well, I think we should turn the tables on this statement that you mentioned, uh, on this part of the statement that Pakistan and China issued about equitable sharing. In fact, we could say that exactly that's why we have held it in abeyance, because we want equitable sharing. Because 80% of the water in IWT goes to Pakistan, only 20%. A colonial era treaty, uh, mid-five by the World Bank, which means America, and of course politically by the British. So we could say yes, that's the point we want to make, that it should now be equitable, and all the more reason it should be equitable because of climate change issues and everything else. So uh, yes, we see the principle, and similarly, this principle should apply to water sharing between China and India. And equitable means that what Chinese projects should be transparent. They should
Hmm,
share in detail the projects with us,
hmm,
make us understand that whatever they are doing is not going to affect downstream as
hmm,
much as we fear, which means
hmm,
transparency, which
hmm,
which they are actually unwilling to do.
Hmm.
So an equitable approach
Hmm.
actually is to treat the other partner equally and transparently. So I
Hmm.
don't, they have to say something. They have to
Hmm.
say something. Uh, the the funny part is that China is the upper riparian when it comes to us, and we are the upper riparian when it comes to Pakistan. They can't have it both ways.
Hmm.
That is an upper riparian, they disregard the rights of the lower riparians.
Hmm.
And when it comes to India as an upper riparian, they want us actually uh,
Hmm.
to be extremely sensitive to the needs and opinions and position
Hmm.
of the lower riparian. That's one part. The other is this all this hua, all this nonsense is talking about India depriving water. There's nothing of the kind. There's nothing of the kind. We are going by the letter of the treaty. And under the letter of the treaty, provisions of the treaty, as you know, one doesn't have to spell it out once again, we are
Hmm.
entitled to build run of the river projects on the three rivers, on the rivers allocated to Pakistan,
Hmm.
which we have been trying to do, which was part of the process of the Indus Waters Commissioners uh, being in touch with each other, we sharing the designs of our projects, and Pakistan making objections, and then you setting up a new, first of all discussing it at government at the level of the IWT commissioners, then appointing a neutral observer who can then take a view and give a ruling, and if that fails, go to the court of arbitration. But Pakistan has, I know this from my days when I was in office and subsequently, they are absolutely determined uh, to put spanner in the works of any project that India wants to do as per the provisions of the treaty. So they have delayed our project. Tulbul was, we couldn't even do it. Baglia and all got delayed by God knows how many years because of the objections that Pakistan constantly raised. I'll tell you a little anecdotal thing. There is a chap, I forget his name, he was a very well respected minister in Pakistan.
Hmm.
And he made a statement, and at that time I commented on it, and I'm forgetting his name. He was supposed to be a very balanced sort of a fellow. He said, but yes, pondage is allowed under the treaty. India can create pondage. But the point is that when there's pondage, there's evaporation too. And it could be 1 to 2%.
Hmm.
So therefore, that also has to be taken into account. That kind of
Hmm.
stupid
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
irrelevancy, the irrelevant arguments that they were resorting to at very senior level to prevent India uh,
Hmm.
from doing what it is entitled to do under the treaty. That is one. The other is that we have not stopped a drop of water under the treaty so far going to Pakistan. It's only that the full utilization of the water in the of the river allotted to India
Hmm.
was not being done because of terrain and other problems. Uh, I can go into a little detail, but
Hmm.
that's not the point here. And now
Hmm.
we are determined to do that,
Hmm.
so that whatever is ours in terms of water, that will
Hmm.
be fully utilized by us as per the provisions of the treaty. But this is a hoo-ha. Now, with regard to going to war with India and this and that, remember Hafiz
Hmm.
Saeed at one time, if you recall, many years
Hmm.
ago, he had
Hmm.
had a public demonstration,
Hmm.
that we do jihad against India
Hmm.
if India interferes in the Indus
Hmm.
Waters Treaty. So this kind of talk is nothing new. They want to
Yes,
excite public
but
opinion and say, look, we are two nuclear power states, and if our vital interests are hurt, and it's an existential threat because Pakistan is an agricultural country, so we'll go to war. This is to excite public opinion internationally too.
that's so you don't take this statement very seriously or something India needs to in any way,
No,
shape
no,
or form.
no.
Uh, but sir, the other aspect of this is China, which is continuing to build its projects in Tibet, which is trying to this Tista project in Bangladesh, try to do water management harvesting. So, do you think that's a significant threat to India, the Chinese operations in this region, which will not follow any treaty or comply with any norms because China is not known to comply or share information? So, that do you believe that is a new threat which is arising for India, China? being an upper riparian state, managing to build these super $160 billion, sir, they say is the price tag for the dam?
See, there are a couple of things. One is that because of the monsoons and the Himalayas, most of the regeneration of water of the Brahmaputra occurs from our side. Tibet doesn't have a monsoon. It's glacier fed, it's snow fed. So the volume of water that the Brahmaputra carries in Tibet is augmented manifold by the water that comes from the Himalayas into the Brahmaputra basin. So I would, I my impression is that about 70% of the water of the Brahmaputra comes from the monsoon, from the Indian side. Uh, so it's not as if it is dramatic, but there are a couple of other very important issues in this. One, of course, is the ecology of Tibet, and if that ecology is disturbed, and in context of climate change and everything else, this can have a generalized, very negative effect on water flowing from Tibet into the subcontinent. That is one. Uh, the other is that if they create this huge storage there, then we are again dependent on them for flow of for data on flooding, on this, on that. They can release water and cause havoc downstream if they release too much water. In other words, they get a handle on us, uh, which then creates a problem. It's a bit like the headworks of the canal system in Pakistan being in Jammu and Kashmir. So here, in this case, it's not quite the same parallel, but the headworks being in Tibet under control of China. So that's the problem. The other is the Satluj part. So the Satluj flows from Tibet into India. Uh, and there, potential for mischief uh, is there. Now, when it comes to Tista and other things, we've taken a strong stand that China must not be involved in the Tista project, which is right next to the chicken's neck. And I think we should be extremely firm on this. And we've got a very big handle, the Ganga Waters Treaty, that
Hmm.
if they sort of totally disregard our security concerns,
Hmm.
then we can say, all right, and we'll see at what time, at what propitious time, if we can
Hmm.
renew this treaty and keep it hanging.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
so they can't have it both ways, that totally disregard our security in a serious manner, and then they say that we are entitled to certain gestures and gifts by you uh,
Hmm.
in a situation where water is becoming increasingly an issue all over the world in terms of climate change and other issues.
Hmm. Hmm. Sir, now I would want to come to the last part of the conversation and start with this tweet, not this tweet by the ambassador, where he says, today I called on the CMO Tamil Nadu, C. Joseph Vijay, to wish him a very happy birthday and discuss the immense potential for deeper cooperations between our two nations across trade and investment. Now, this, sir, is not, people don't consider it to be an innocuous statement because it seems to be well identifying a fault line which certain politicians within Bharat have also tried to raise of North versus South, economic cooperation, industrialization. Now it is going to be a part of delimitation. If it's not 50% formula, then how many seats come to North, how many seats? So there are certain issues there which people have time and again tried to raise. And the ambassador coming and tweeting this, do you think it's an innocuous mistake or do you think there is some mischief behind it? And how should India react to it?
Well, as you know, I had posted something on this on X, uh, pointing out the ambiguity in this statement, that ambassador should have realized the implications of what he was saying. That even if he didn't actually wanted to convey that they were dealing with Tamil Nadu as a nation, um, and if it was unintended, then he should reword his tweet. And what he should have said is the relations between United States and the Indian state of Tamil Nadu. Now, it is true that there are a lot of the global capability centers, and there are a lot of investments, American and others, in Tamil Nadu and in other southern states. It's legitimate on the part of any ambassador, including the American ambassador, to deal, to pay courtesy calls on the chief minister and keep in touch with the policymakers there, either at his level occasionally and at the level of the consulate there, uh, to be able to sort out whatever the administrative other problems that keep arising whenever there are investments of this nature. Now, I had pointed out, I don't know, Ishkaran, if you've seen that tweet, that when Garcetti, the former ambassador, in his confirmation hearings, when he was uh, in the Senate, he talked about doing subnational diplomacy in India. And at that time, I had drawn the attention, if you look at my posts, that, this was very dangerous. I didn't use that word. I forget what word I used, but I pointed out to the dangers of United States doing subnational diplomacy. In other words, trying to encourage subnationalism in India. And he said that. Now there is a continuation of that thinking and approach that you are going to do subnational diplomacy, which is why he has used the term between our two nations. It's part of that thinking and approach,
Sir,
and
then that
therefore
because you have
it is objectionable.
sir, because you have given this reference and the context, then it becomes not an innocuous thing at all, but then it appears to be a policy decision to try to talk about subnationalism and treat Tamil Nadu. There is some state, I forgot now, which I think Hyderabad, where they have just made a Donald Trump avenue or something of that sort. So, sir, then it appears to be a complete strategy behind it. It's not successful because it's not a big movement in India or it's not a big thing in India, but their attempts could be to make it a big issue in India of subnationalism, North versus South.
I think we have to look very, very carefully at this because the U.S. ambassador, at one level, I can understand. He's hyperactive. He's on a very studied PR campaign because there are a lot of negatives in India-U.S. relations, and Trump is hitting us left, right, and center every other day. So he wants to change the narrative and focus on the positives, and therefore he's trying to build up a a narrative that a lot is happening in our relations, which are very good, moving forward, etc., etc. But look at some of the things that he's done. First of all, he goes and meets the missionaries of charities in Calcutta, knowing that it's controversial. Then the first meeting that Rubio has when he comes here, he goes to Calcutta and he meets them. It's all in the context of the FCRA and this and that. The moment he comes from the G7 meeting, that very day itself, he goes and meets the Home Minister because the FCRA was going to be amended. And then he is also doing domestic U.S. politics in India by having this Telangana, I think it's in Telangana, Hyderabad, where they named the street after Donald Trump. Now, this sends a foreign policy message. When you are honoring a global leader, it has a foreign policy meaning to it. Now, at a time when Donald Trump is delivering body blows to our ties, you are honoring him. You are totally disregarding the Constitution of India, where foreign affairs is the remit of the central government.
Unions of it.
Ideally, I don't know if this happened or didn't happen. I am not privy to this. This couldn't and shouldn't have been done without consulting the center. And on top of it, if you see the dedication, it's dedicated by the chief minister of Telangana,
Mm.
Revanth, and the U.S. ambassador to India.
Mm.
It's the first time I've seen where the U.S. ambassador to India is has dedicated a road, and it is there in the plaque.
Mm.
So I think we have to be a little watchful because it's not as if we are not aware of two levels of U.S. policy towards India.
Hmm.
There is, of course, at a level where we've seen how the relationship has grown,
Hmm.
and there is certainly a lot to be gained by having close relations, and we've gained a lot, and we'll
Hmm.
continue to gain a lot because whatever it is, America is the biggest source of investment and technology, and
Hmm.
their biggest trade partner. IT sector is totally aligned with that country, so we can't afford to turn our backs to the United States. But
Hmm.
at the same time, we've seen on religious freedom, on human rights, on minorities, on this, on that, on that. They have they have been constantly needling us, putting pressure on us. Their press, their academia, their think
Hmm.
tanks. They have been very negative about India even now. So they are playing
Hmm.
at two levels.
Hmm.
At
Hmm.
one level, uh, extract as much as they can from the India relationship, which serves both sides, and we are
Hmm.
happy to do that. At the other
Hmm.
level, keep India on the defensive and make India beholden to America to lessen, to diminish the pressures that are coming from the wider US society on India. So this gives them a handle.
Hmm.
So, so there, so there it is. We have to be conscious of this. We should not at all look at any foreign country, especially the United States, as a benign, as a totally benign factor in India-US ties. It's not the case.
So not even American friends can look at America as a benign country. What was Henry Kissinger? To be enemy of India, US is bad. To be friend of US is fatal. So I think even they know their own nature, and it is not something anybody else can ignore. So my last question is this Iran invite, because when the president was killed, assassinated, war, death, whatever you call it, India was a little slow in putting out its condolences. Now they have invited for the state funeral, which they are doing it in three, four places. Uh, what do you think should be India's response? Do prime ministers ordinarily go? And if they do not go ordinarily, also, then foreign minister, or you think nobody should go? What do you think would be Indian response, or should be the Indian response?
I have already commented on that on X, saying that we should send a high level representative. And I'll give you the reasons for this. Uh, One is that we will, in a way, make amends for the fact that we did not at all uh, condole the political assassination of Khamenei. After all, he was the supreme leader of Iran. Do we think that it is normal in state relations or in international law or under the UN Charter for a political head of a state to be assassinated in this way? Uh, Now, the Iranians are overlooking this. All right, you did not condole, but we still have value for you in terms of our future ties. And therefore, we are not holding it against you, we're inviting you.
Hmm.
Therefore, we'll, in a sense, make up for that, to my mind, shortfall in our diplomatic posture.
Hmm.
Uh, that is one. The other is that in the context of Pakistani mediation, Iran-Pakistan relation, Iranian president has gone there with a large delegation, and the perspectives of stronger ties between Pakistan and Iran. Iran is also signaling to you, in its own way, that we continue to attach importance to our relations with you,
Hmm.
and therefore uh, uh, we invite you at the sent an invitation to the Prime Minister. Number three, we also get more margin for maneuver against both the United States and Israel.
Hmm.
So after we are India, we have our national interest in mind.
Hmm.
We don't have to sign anything that is only convenient, sign on to anything that is only convenient to other countries. Now, if let's say the whole thing stabilizes, the relationship with Iran, sanctions are lifted, Iran has
Hmm.
the money, wherewithal, everything else becomes a
Hmm.
normal uh,
Hmm.
country in the region, then we
Hmm.
can redo the Chabahar thing.
Hmm.
We can access to Central Asia, international North-South corridor. We can do reconstruction projects in
Hmm.
Iran. We've done railway projects in the past. We can. There are many, many opportunities there. And then, of course, most importantly, Iran used to be the second largest supplier of oil to India, right next
Hmm.
door.
Hmm.
So we can start buying oil from Iran. That will create another linkage. So we have to see this from that angle, that we have also to nourish and nurture our future relationship with Iran in the perspective of normalization of ties in this region. So I think from all points of view, uh, we should be represented at a high level, not at the level of the Prime Minister. In any case, the Prime Minister is not going to be in India. He's traveling to Australia or some other countries during this period. In any case, it's not for him to go, because Khamenei was not the formal head of state. He was supreme leader in a different kind of a political construction. Now, if you remember when the previous president died in an air accident, we sent our vice president at the funeral ceremony, and we declared one day's mourning also. So we can send somebody at that level who can go and represent India. I think it will be desirable, and there are many positives to it.
Thank you, sir, for your time and putting out what should be India's perspective and India's stand in all these various global events and relationship with all these countries. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you.